Okay, so today we are going to start off with the Unit 5 portions. So Unit 5 basically consists of two parts. One is the cyclic code, which is the another form of linear block codes, where you are going to make use of a cyclic generator, which actually simplifies the representation of a linear block codes. This also has a particular arithmetic representations, which will make the realization of a generator, decoder and syndrome circuit much more simpler to whatever we have seen so far. But the cyclic code part we are going to take little bit later on. So we are going to study about convolution coding because of the reason that we are supposed to be conducting one more experiment in our DC lab corresponding to this convolution coding. So I am going to start off with the second part of the Unit 5, which is the convolution coding part. Okay, so please be attentive so that this is going to be helpful for your lab portion. So as of now, we know that an error control coding, the process of error control or error correction. Error control basically involves two steps. One is error detection, the other one is error correction. Both of these are done because of the reason that while the digital data are transmitted over a given channel, communication channel, you are going to lose some of the bits, or some of the bits may get transformed into other bits, other symbols during the transmission. So this detection, the error that has occurred during the transmission can be detected, and also some of them can be corrected by making use of certain coding algorithms. What are these coding algorithms? These are called as channel encoding algorithms, which will help us in identifying the error and also correcting them. So out of the two basic error control coding mechanisms, one is block code, the other one is convolution code. What is the main difference between block code and convolution code is that your block code is going to be an output, or it is an n-bit code word generated for a block of information obtained at particular given point of time. That means if you have k information bits at any given point of time, you are going to have a corresponding n bit of information at the output, which is coded along with the message bits. So it consists of message bits followed by the what we call it as parity check bits. So that is how the block codes are generated. Once you have encoded that k bits of information, you are going to discard all the k bits and you are going to bring in new k bits, right? So that is how the process of block coding will happen. The entire information is divided into chunks of k bits, and then each k bits is processed one at a time. But when it comes to convolution codes, the convolution codes are one where we are going to generate an n-bit code where the information bits is being scattered or staggered around the information of n bits that we are trying to transmit. So basically, convolution code is one which is going to not only generate an n bit for the input at current time, but it also depends on the input that was provided previously. That means in this particular encoding algorithm, we are going to make use of the message informations that was previously provided or entered into the system. So this keeps the memory of the information that was present previously. What is the advantage of this is, let's suppose if I am sending a block code which is of n coded vector, I am going to send it over the channel. For some reason, the more than 2 bits or the burst error has occurred. What do you mean by burst error is, whenever we send a n bit block, okay, most of the bits in this, not 1, not 2, like more than 2 number of bits are ended up in an error. So this portion has completely gone in error. In that case, we will not be able to recover the information in any manner. So this problem of burst error can be overcome by staggering the information over multiple time slots. So instead of sending the code word for a particular information only at one given point of time, what we do is, whenever a new bit from the k bits of information enters, we are going to process this information for multiple number of times, or by keeping it in memory. So the information of this particular bit can be obtained at either at current time instance, or you can wait for 2 more time instances for it to appear again. So like that you can find the information being scattered around multiple time slots, which is in a way we will still be able to rectify or obtain the transmitted information even if we lose it at particular point of time. Burst errors are something like whenever you transmit it over a channel, at one point of time you will see the burst error. It is not always that you are going to encounter burst error. That's the reason why it is called as burst. It is an instantaneous explosion of error, and it is not going to be consistent, unlike your AWGN noise or the noise which is, or the errors that are going to commonly occur. So burst errors are basically the ones where at that point of time many number of bits will go missing. That will not repeat most probably. So these are not steady errors. So therefore convolution coding in a way will help us in achieving or obtaining the encoded information for the same message bit at multiple time slots. So this is going to be helpful. Therefore it makes use of memory elements in order to realize the information. And with two types of error control coding methods, block code is mostly used or preferred whenever we want to detect an error within the transmitted information. So it is very efficient in detecting the error. When it comes to convolution coding, it is very efficient in terms of error correcting process, because it has a particular structure and it has a particular dependency of previous message informations. So therefore it is capable of error correcting in a very effective and efficient manner, whereas in the block codes it is most efficient for the error detection rather than the error correcting. Mostly if it is a 1 bit or 2 bit errors, we can go and correct them, but if it is a burst error, the block code will fail when it comes to rectification of those errors, but it can only still detect. Now coming to convolution code, what is this convolution code? As I said, this is going to take k information bits. If we have a k information bit, I do not call it as a block here, it is k bits of information. Okay, this will be converted into an n coded bits. This k bits of information is converted into an n number of coded bits, but with m minus 1 number of messages, previous message bits are also considered. So while we convert an k bits of information into an n bit code word, this n bit code word not only depend on the bit that was generated at time instance t, but it also depends on the bits that were transmitted or that were pushed into the shift register at time t is equal to t minus 1, t minus 2, so on and so forth. Okay, this number of memory bits that I want to choose is up to the designer who wants to design the convolution code. It depends on this. So therefore these type of convolution codes are addressed as n, k, m convolution code. We normally address this as n, k, m, where n denotes the length of the code word, length of code vector. K is known as the number of message information bits, and m is the number of memory elements. Okay, so this is how we are going to construct a convolution code, and for this we have a parameter called as the coding efficiency, the rate efficiency of this convolution code. As we have already said in block coding also, the rate efficiency is always given by the coding rate efficiency is given by the ratio of the total information bits over the total number of coded bits. So this gives us the rate efficiency. Okay, so if there are k bits, n bits will be coming out of the system. So we will see one simple example over here so that you will be able to understand how this convolution coder is going to work. So I'm writing the convolution coder which is denoted as n, k, m. N is 3, k is 1, m is 3. Okay. So if the number of message or number of memory elements that we are considering is 3, we will need 3 flip-flop elements, D1, D2, T3, or let me write it as F1, F2, F3, that is much more simple. FF1, flip-flop 1, this is flip-flop 2, this is flip-flop 3. Okay. So this is where I am going to enter the message bit. These are message bits that are entering the flip-flop with the rate RB. Assume that the rate of bit rate at which I am transmitting the bits will be RB. So how this is constructed is, most probably the convolution encoding circuit will involve the shift register along with few modulo 2 adders only. So your encoder will look like this. The first encoder, I am going to write it over here. The first modulo 2 adder will consider the output from D1 and the output from D2 and the output from D3. This I will call it as C1, the coded bit C1. I hope you can see this. This is C1. Then this particular one, C2, is just the output of D2, the output of flip-flop 1. This is C2. Then the last one is the output of flip-flop 1 and the output of flip-flop 2. This could be any combination. I mean, this coding technique or coding equation could be anything. This we will see little bit later, how to design out, how to write this structure. I mean, which modulo 2 adder I need to consider, how to pick only this. These are dependent on the code that we are trying to generate. So as of now, you remember this is one of the case where we are having the modulo 2 adders somewhat constructed like this. I'm just trying to give you the concept of this convolution encoder. So this is just an example. This is not a very exact typical. It will not remain the same always, but it will change. But this is just a example to show to you. Please note down this particular example. So this is a commutator arrangement again. So this is the commutator arrangement that we are going to have in order to obtain this encoded bits and then transmit it over the channel. So C1, C2, C3 are the coded bits. Now, if you have noted down this diagram, please note down this diagram. I am going to show you how the encoding process is going to happen. If you are done, do let me know so that I can erase and we can see how the encoding process goes. Shall we erase? Yes? Okay. So we will consider the example of this particular convolution encoder at different time instances. Let us see what will happen. So in short, at different time instances I am going to try to give you the output and as well as the inputs within the shift register. So I am going to tabulate the time against, this is my time axis, at time instance 0, after the time TB, to TB. Why we are considering TB is because the input bits are coming at a rate RB. So therefore, every processing, the flip-flops that you are using will have the clock rate at least equal to the rate of RB. So therefore, the processing will happen within 1 bit duration, that is TB. So I have considered 7 different time slots, 7 TB. Now I am going to write the flip-flop arrangements. So before this 0, before I could give any input to the flip-flop system, you are going to have the 0, all zeros being present, all the bits within the shift registers are flushed out, which means it will not contain any input within it. So it will be an all 0 present within FF1, FF2 and FF3. So that is the scenario to begin with. That is the initial step. Once I assume that I have a data stream given as, assume that I have an input stream, the k bits, if I am sending k 1 bit at a time, such that I have 5 such bits. So it is 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. I am considering this as my message length or the message block. But if you observe here, this n comma k comma m, it is only going to consider 1 bit at a time. The k number of bits is only 1. So into the system, only 1 bit goes at a time. So therefore, at 0th time instance, the first message bit is going to enter into the shift register. So the contents within the shift register are going to be 1. It will enter to the extreme left, rest gets shifted to the right. So what is the combination? The flip-flop combinations are 1, 0, 0. What will be the corresponding output? You people have to tell me. You have written the circuit, no? I have erased the circuit, so you need to help me out. This is the output of FF1, FF2 and FF3 at the end of first clock duration. Now you tell me what will be the output.
1, 1, 1.
C1, C2, C3.
Triple 1, ma'am.
C1 is
1.
1. C2?
1.
C2 is also 1. C3?
1, ma'am.
Okay. So all ones will be the output. Now, so the first bit has given me some output. Now, at the second bit duration, I will be entering the second information bit over here and shift everything to the right. So what will happen? This 0 goes out. Since there are only 3 flip-flops, this 0 goes out. Next 0 fills in here and 1 gets pushed to the right. The next bit is 0 from the message block. The next bit is 0 in the message block. So 0 has entered over here. Now you again compute C1, C2, C3. C1 is 1 because it is just simply addition of all the 3. You have to do the modulo 2 addition, please remember. And the second one is simply the first output of the first flip-flop. And the third one, that is C3, is FF1 plus FF2. So it is 1. So 101 is the output that will be obtained, or the code word output that will be obtained after the second time instance. Now coming to the third bit, similarly, everything gets pushed to the right. 1 appears over here, 0. The third bit is 1, so the third bit appears over here. Okay. If I name these data bits as D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, first D1 will appear over here, next D2 will appear over here, D1 gets shifted to the right extreme, to the right side of the just entered bit, and this one will be D3. Okay, now compute C1, C2, C3 again. C1 will be 0 because there are two number of ones, and C2 will be 1, and then C3 will be 1. 0, 1, 1. Now the fourth bit is going to appear. So when the fourth bit appears, so 0 it gets pushed, 1 gets pushed out, the 0, 1, and then next is also 1. So 1, 1, 0 gets filled in. So this happens to be D4. Okay, then now you tell me what will be the output. Again it is 0, then it is 1, then 0. Right? Now, the last bit in the message stream is, the message stream is 0. So 0 gets pushed here, then the rest will get pushed to the right. Now you see it is 0, 0, then comes 1. 0, 0, 1 will be the output. Now you see what will happen. This is D5. Final bit of the message stream or message sequence has been pushed into the flip-flop. Now there is no other message sequence, no other bits left out in the message sequence. Now what is going to happen is, it will still process. Why? Because it will have to process all the message bits until and unless all the data bits that has been previously pushed should be sent out of the shift register. That is the criteria to end the coding process. So what does that mean? Now D5 is currently present in FF1. So this D5 is going to get processed until and unless it comes out of FF3, the last flip-flop within the shift register. So what will happen in the next clock cycle? Now everything gets pushed to the right again. So this bit gets out. The second bit will come to the extreme right. Then 0. Since there is no other bits left over in the message sequence, the first flip-flop gets filled by a 0. The first flip-flop gets filled by a 0. Now again you will get C1, C2, C3 for this. C1 is 1, C2 is 0, then again C3 is also 0. Still there is a D2 is getting pushed, it is still over here, it is still present over here. This is a dummy 0. This is not a data sequence actually, but it is a 0 to push this data out of the shift register. So the last sequence is, this 1 gets pushed out, D5 comes to the extreme right, then 0 again, 0 again. If you look at the output over here, it will come to C1 plus C2 plus C3. I mean output is zeros for C1, C2 is also 0, C3 is also 0. Now it has entered into the stage where we initially started. So the shift register has finally entered into the final stage where it has been filled with all zeros and it has come to its initial position. So this is how the convolution coder will work. So if you look at this carefully, D1 was first here, then D1 was next in the second place, and D1 is in the third place. So till here, till the first 3 bit durations, you will have the effect of D1. So D1 will be present for 3 clock cycles, and these are the encoded bits which will consist of some amount of information related to the D1 bit. Now, if you again look at D2 which has entered at the second time slot, for next 3 clock cycles, the output or the coded bits will have the effect of D2. Similarly, if you consider with D3, then 3 clock cycles starting from the entry of D3 will have the effect of D3. Similarly, D4. Okay, so the last one is D5. So like this, the convolution encoder is going to work for until and unless it processes all the data bits that has been entered within the shift register. So it will take, within the message sequence, it will take only k number of bits. If at all the k is equal to assume, So we will have two inputs actually. It will the circuit will look different. We can take 2 bits at a time. So both the bits will enter the two different shift registers at a time. That we will see later. Okay, those kind of examples we will see later. But this is a very simple case where k is equal to 1. That means 1 bit is only entering the shift register, and then that 1 bit itself is going to be processed for the 3 number of or the m number of cycles of the clock, that you can say. Okay, so for m number of memory time or the m number of time slots, a particular bit is going to be processed within the convolution encoder. Do you have any doubts so far? If you have doubts, you can ask. If this we call it as a message block, let us call this as the message sequence so that it will be easier for us to address this. So this will be the message sequence. The message sequence will be divided into message blocks of k number of message blocks, and then we are going to process it. And the length of this message sequence is normally denoted by the capital letter L. And for every convolution encoder, there is a parameter known as constraint length. We will see what is this later. The constraint length of a convolution encoder is given by the multiplication of the factor, the number of flip-flops m multiplied by the length of the code word generator. So constraint length is given by m cross n. Let us see this, m into n. We will see what is the importance of this particular parameter later on. Any doubts so far? Guys, do you have any doubt? This type of convolution encoder, where we are having the rate efficiency or code efficiency as k by n, in this case we call it as 1 by 3. So we call this as 1 by 3 convolution encoder in general terms. When we address this type of convolution encoder, we call it as 1 by 3 convolution encoder. Shall we do one more example similar to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So here the next one that we will be considering is different n comma k comma m. Next combination is, I will consider 2 comma 1 comma 3 convolution encoder. So that means it is going to have 3 memory elements. 2 is the length of the coded vector, coded output, and 1 is the bits, number of bits that are entering into the shift register. So I will write the circuit diagram over here. Flip flop 1, flip flop 2, flip flop 3. This is where the message bits will enter. So the first output will, the coded output will be the information bit itself along with the output of the second stage and the output of the third stage. Please observe the connections properly, and then you need to evaluate this. I am doing this. have four inputs on here. This is C1, this is C2. So there are two outputs. Observe here. This particular modulo 2 adder will take the message bit as is. Okay. Then the output of the flip flop. How you should consider here is, while pushing the data out, whatever the output that is coming out, that you need to take, not the one that has been already entered. So please keep this in mind. Whatever that was previously present here, that will contribute to the output, not the one that you are going to enter at given time instance. So basically you have to look at the end of a clock cycle here. Okay, in this particular case. So this has 4 inputs, this has 3 inputs. Okay, so observe this carefully. We will see the output in this particular case. Assume that I have the same message sequence. The same message sequence 1 0 1 1 0 1 0. Let me consider a simple one even more. 1 0 1 1 1. Even you can also consider 0. That's not an issue. Now let us try to write the outputs. So I'll write the sequence over here. So initially all the flip flop will be zeros in 0 0 0 state. Next what will happen? The output is anyways C1 will be 0, C2 will be 0. Next, the bit 1 will be present over here. Please observe here carefully. At time instance T0, 1 will be present over here, rest all will be 0. So your output, if I call this as C1, will be the actual message input, that is 1. It has still not entered, and the output of the flip flop 2, and then the output of flip flop 3. So it is 1 plus 0 plus 0. So this one is going to be 1. C2 similarly it is 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. So this is 1. This is 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. This is also equal to 1. The outputs will be 1 1. Similarly, now 1 gets pushed into the flip flops or the shift register. The next data bit is 0. Now you see what will happen at the end of clock cycle. C1 here, it is going to be 0 plus the output of flip flop 2. It is going to be 0. Then flip flop 3 is also going to be 0. So C1 will be 0. Coming to C2, this one will be 0 plus output is 1 plus 1 plus 1. Sorry, 0 plus 1 plus 0 plus 0. So it is going to be equal to 0. Sorry, 1. So this is how you are going to evaluate for this particular case. So you need to be a little bit careful when we are doing this. If you have any doubts here, you can ask. Similarly, you continue doing it for the other cases also. Okay, so what we will do now is, to do this encoding process, we will take an easier approach where we had made use of a generator matrix to just obtain the code word for the given data sequence. So we know that the code word V is equal to U into G. Similarly, we can also obtain this code word vector which is obtained at C1, a part of code vector which is obtained at C1 and C2 can be expressed in terms of D into G. G will be corresponding to the modular 2 adder at the top and modular 2 adder at the bottom. So we can consider in that way also, and we can do so this is basically a convolution that happens over here. So we can express this convolution process in terms of digital convolution equation. So we can do that, we will do that, the representation. Even we can write this in a matrix form and then easily we can compute this. What we do is, we are going to write the generator polynomial for the first modular 2 adder. First modular 2 adder as G1, we represent it as G. At the superfix, I am writing or representing 1, and the superfix for the second for modular 2 adder is, I represent it as G2. In the first modular 2 adder, if you look at, if there are 4 checkpoints, let me consider the 4 checkpoints where there are 3 flip-flop adders, 3 flip-flops in the shift register. The output, the input point, the output of the first flip-flop, output of the second flip-flop, and then the output of the fourth flip-flop. These are the 4 checkpoints from where the data are drawn. Let me consider this as each one of these as a checkpoints. So in order to look at the inputs corresponding to the generator, input to the modular 2 adder at the top, if you look at, it is going to consider the input bit directly. Then this was not considered, so it is 0. The next 2 is considered, so it is 1. So the generator polynomial or the generator, what we can say as the vector for the first modular 2 adder looks like this, 1 0 1 1. If you consider similarly to the bottom modular 2 adder, it is given by all ones, because including the input, all the 3 checkpoints are also considered. So this is going to be written as 1 1 1. So using this analogy, we can write the generator matrix G as, observe here carefully how we are writing this. The G1, G2, when you are putting you need to generate the code word until and unless all the bits in the message sequence gets exhausted. Let me consider the example that I just gave. The data sequence or the message sequence that I want to encode is 10 11 11. So there are 5 bits basically. Remember this. The length of the message is 5. The length of the message is 5. So once you enter, there are how many memory elements? There are 3 memory elements. So even after pushing the data, all the datas, you need to process for the further 2 more clock cycles. We will see that relation, how to know all these things. Okay, like in the previous case, even after entering all the bits into the shift register within the 5 clock cycles, you were supposed to process for extra 2 clock cycles in order to know all the outputs. Similar to that, here what we are going to do, we will have to consider the outputs. This is corresponding to C1 and C2. Like that we are going to write. The generator matrix is written as 1 1 0 1. Observe carefully, later on you can write 1 1 0 1 1 1 1 1. Okay, these are all the first impact for the first bit that was entered, and rest all will be 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Actually in this case you will have 8 clock cycles. We will see that what is the relation. The next one is, next gets pushed, everything gets pushed to the right. Next, you have to write this generator matrix unless and until all these 4 combinations of the generated polynomial get shifted to the extreme right. So if you are writing in this form, finding out the code vectors for different dimensions becomes very simple. So now we have come up with the to the end of the generator matrix in the last row. I don't think you can see here. Please continue this process unless you are having these 4 coming at the end of the last 4. So this exactly should complement each other. The first row should be flipped entirely. The 4 0 0 zeros, the 4 pairs of zeros should be coming at the beginning, followed by this 4 pairs. Okay, so that is how we write the generator matrix. So the simple to obtain the code word vector is B into G, or B is equal to U into G. Like this only we will be able to find out the code word vector for the given message bits. So this part we will see a little bit later. Now it is 10:45. We will see how to obtain the length. Now only I will let you know. In order to write this generator matrix, the ultimate size of the generator matrix G will be of the order of, let me write it over here. The G that is generated for a given convolution encoder will be of the order of, the number of rows within the generator matrix will be of the length equal to the message length, that is L. Order of generator matrix G will be, the number of rows will be equal to L, and the number of columns will be equal to N into L plus M. N into L plus M, where L is the number of message bits, that is 5, and M is the number of memory elements, 3, and N will be equal to the length of the code word vector. So in this case it is 2 into 5 plus 3 is 8, 16. So if you look at, there are 16 bits in the first row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So these 16 bits will get repeated for the 5 rows. And this, since it's a shift register, it will be rolled back into the initial bit positions. But while you are putting the data bits from extreme right to the left, please make sure that you are putting it in pairs only. The shifting should happen as per the pairs, not as per the bits. So if the entire pair will come and sit in the beginning, the entire pair will come and sit in the beginning. So this is how we can construct the generator matrix for the convolution encoder. We will see the equation method also in the next class. Okay, so this equation method is going to be helpful in the coding that you do in Scilab, or if there are any inbuilt functions also, the inbuilt functions in the Scilab will consider the equation realization, and then it will do the same process. Or sometimes we can also realize the same program using the matrix method. So in both these methods we can realize the convolution encoder in the lab. So we will see in the next class how to do the convolution encoding method using both equation method and also as well as the matrix method. In both the ways you should know, because it is the main mathematical concept that is involved in realizing the convolution coders in the Scilab. Okay, so that part we will know it in the tomorrow's class.